about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is coaching children and no other than Miss Coach Yana.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Book 101, Coach Yana. Can you please introduce more about yourself?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I am a children's confidence coach. So, I basically created an ecosystem for children, whether that's through courses or games and animated series, just to help them develop confidence in a way that's coming from a place of play and growth. So, long story short, that's what I do.
Miss Coach Yana, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And let's talk about raising confident children in a world that tries to silence them. How do you define
Mm.
true confidence in a child, especially in contrast to arrogance or compliance?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, for me, confidence in children is kind of similar to like what confidence would look like in an adult, just on like a smaller scale. So, children being able to stand up for themselves if they feel like they've been wronged, children being able to express their opinions and their emotions clearly in ways that is healthy, children feeling safe, seen, and heard. Everybody wants to feel safe, seen, and heard, but for children, having that external validation is exceptionally important. It's important for adults too, but children need to feel like what they're saying matters. They need to have a place to express that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not shy, because sometimes people just assume shy children are insecure or what have you. But ultimately, it's just about how comfortable a child feels being themselves in all settings and how they're able to express that healthily. So that's what I feel confident children looks like.
Coach Yana, very well said. Empowering answer indeed.
Thank
Why
you.
is it why is it crucial to differentiate between teaching respect for authority and
Mhm.
preventing the silencing of a child's authentic voice?
That is a good question. So I think that there's a balance. Children need to learn to be respectful of others as well as themselves and authority, but they also need to be able to have autonomy over their selves, because some adults will take advantage of a child's naivety or innocence and try to sway them to do things that are not very safe for them. So children need to understand that when there is an adult or a person of authority, that you should consider what they're saying, and but still weigh it up against what feels right to you and what feels right in the situation. Because sometimes parents will teach you just have to be obedient, 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 and that's great when all of the adults that are around the children are positive, when all the that are around the children are safe and have good intent, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. So I just say to raise respectful children who also have the ability to question, okay, well, if you're telling me that this is a secret, like why? Why can't I share this with my parent or guardian or trusted adult? So making sure that they are respectful, but not necessarily just obedient across the board, because unfortunately, not all adults have children's best interest at heart. And I think that it's our duty to protect them in that way.
Definitely our duty to protect our generation to come. What are the
Yes.
most common ways, subtle or overt, you see the world trying to silence children today?
That's a good one. So I see the world trying to silence children with like trying to skip the childhood phase a little bit. So the
Yes.
content that is being pushed to them is more like teenager, more adult type entertainment, and I just don't think that it's appropriate certain situations to have on a children's platform in general. So I definitely think the um, trying to get children to grow up too fast is something that is plaguing our next generation, and trying to get them to be like a certain way. Like all of the influencers now look kind of the same, whether they're whatever ethnicity, each category kind of has its look. And I'm seeing with my students that sometimes they feel bad about themselves because they don't have that look. So I want to try to encourage children to just be comfortable with who they are naturally, and anything that they want to enhance or grow later, like that's down the line. But children are children for a short amount of time. And it seems like society is trying to shorten that time, and I want them to be able to retain their innocence and imagination for as long as possible.
Coach Yana, how do societal pressures like gender stereotypes or academic
Mm.
expectations or social media perfectionism especially chip away at the child's innate confidence?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. So I think that all of those things can create a false sense of like reality in general. Like even adults are having identity crisis right now because of all of the expectations. And on social media you only see a very small snippet of what people's lives actually are. If you have a friend that's always traveling and things, you don't really know like what's happening, how they're getting to these places, or these influencers and yada yada and carrying on. And so I think that traditional society is pushing a standard that doesn't necessarily exist. Like even the movies, it's like these are the perfect families, and it's the perfect this and the perfect that. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that is not the situation that children are being raised in. And with humans, there's some errors, there's some trauma that you experience. It live long enough, you're going to have to deal with some trauma of some kind. And society has taught us to look at that as like bad stuff, or like don't talk about your pain, don't talk about this. Or on the other hand, now it's everyone is upset about everything sometimes. So I think it's important to teach children to see what's going on, but still balance it based on how they feel and what they can control. And if we just let society and the masses lead our children, then we're not going to see very confident, happy, well-rounded individuals. And if adults are struggling with their identity and knowing who they are, and balancing social media up against reality, and they know that it's only a snippet that you see on social media, can you imagine how children are taking it? Because children don't see the world the way that we do. They see it very literally, and everything is exactly that, and everything's huge. So when children are just left to fend for themselves on social media or in school and yada yada, they can be easily influenced. And the things that plague adults, like, oh, I don't look like this model, or like this, or like that, is like amplified with children. So I hope that answered the question.
Coach Yana, again,
Oh,
very well said.
thank you.
Indeed, empowering answer. Cultivating the next generation of leaders through fun and play. Can you expound this phrase on your website?
Yeah. So I like that is literally the motto, because children learn through trial and error sometimes. And also, what I've discovered is like the best way to teach a child in terms of like confidence and like those lifestyle skills is when they don't even realize that it's happening. So, everything that I put out there is fun and play is the first root of it. But it all, kind of circles back to developing the children, building confidence within them. But through fun and play, it becomes less of like, oh, I gotta go to Coach Yana's club again. Like it's already that day of the week. But with the fun aspect, they're like, I don't want to leave. Like, when am I gonna be back? And da 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 da. So and one student, actually, it was funny. I asked him a question in one of our one-on-one sessions, and originally he was like, oh, I don't have an answer, yada yada. So I went the fun route. And then later, he's a very wise, mature child. And he goes, "You just taught me, didn't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I didn't even know it." And I'm like, "Exactly." So if you teach them through fun and play, then they tend to also do what you want them to do. And they don't even realize that they're kind of moving that way.
Coach Yana, what are the most impactful things parents, caregivers can do daily nurture a child's sense of self worth and believe in their own voice?
Yeah, that is kind of challenging just because all children are different, but across the board, the better example parents lead within themselves, the easier it will be for their children to reflect that confidence because and I know easier said than done depending on what people have been through, but if you set the example for what you want your child to see throughout their life, then they'll be more likely to do it. But outside of that, I always say, allow your children to teach you things and share with you, like when they get back from school. If they say, "Oh, I just guess what I learned? Humans and animals breathe oxygen." And so humans that breathe oxygen. So you could say as a parent or guardian, whoever, "Oh, I already knew that. Thanks, whatever." But if you're looking to instill confidence in them, you can say, "Oh, really? Tell me more about that. What specifically did you learn? And what is oxygen?" And just show interest in what they're saying because subconsciously, especially as a young child, that plants in them that what I have to say matters, what I have to say is important. This person cares about what I'm saying. So it's like one of those things, like a skill. And once they get more confident with teaching things, then they'll be more likely to speak their opinion. They'll have an easier way of expressing what they're thinking and formulating their thoughts into phrases and sentences because they've had practice. So once again, be the example you want them to be, and then also allow them to teach you, show you things, read the instructions in the game. If give them opportunities to make decisions, and the more you give them those little opportunities here and there, like let's say you want to go to a restaurant with your child, you don't know where to go, and you're like, "Okay, let's go to where do you want to go, kid?" And they're like, "Oh, let's go to McDonald's." You may not want to go to McDonald's, but if that's the choice that they made, then allow them to make those choices and follow through because if they can practice with you in a safe place and environment, it'll be easier to do it in the real world.
Yes, indeed. Doing confidence in the real world. Can you share an example of how child's natural expression or curiosity might be unintentional, stilted by well meaning adults?
Yeah. So, like I previously said, but I can expand, like when parents sometimes are tired from the workday or whatever they have going on and they don't show interest in what their children are interested in, then unintentionally that can cause a child to feel like, "Oh, well, what I'm saying doesn't matter," because children don't see things the way that we do. So, like, if you had a long day at work, your partner will typically understand, like, okay, this person had a long day. Let me give them like 5 minutes to have some mental calmness. Now, with the child, you can still say, obviously, like, "Hey, can I just have like 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and then we will talk as much as you want about whatever the topic is." But just being mindful, really, really, really mindful about the choice of words. Also, something that I find parents do is like sometimes they'll say, like, "Oh, well, you're being dumb or you're being this or you're being that," but children don't register the being and they'll just hear you are this, like you are dumb, you are this or that. And so just you have to be very, very, very mindful about the phrasing and the words that you use if trying to specifically grow and develop confidence because it definitely matters. And I'll just say this last point. If it matters to an adult that they're being criticized or shut down or someone doesn't want to hear what they have to say, everything that adults feel, children feel amplified. So if you wouldn't like it done to you, definitely, definitely don't do it to your child or to any children.
Yes, tell to your kids you're smart, you're beautiful.
Hmm.
Building their confidence, people, is very important at
Yeah.
the young age. Miss Coach Yana, As a coach for children, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah. So my short-term goals are to just continue this, like meeting amazing people like yourself and sharing what I have to offer. And long-term goals would be to just really take the Laptop Life Coach global. And I would like to have like a boarding school at some point and really just teach children across the world, regardless of their economic space, how to have confidence and build a real community for parents and families alike. So that's the goal.
Good luck to your goals,
Thank
Coach
you.
Yana, and looking forward for more and more success. And what will be your piece of advice for people out there want to be a coach also for children?
Okay. Interesting. So I would say if someone wants to be a coach with children, really make sure that you are mentally there because I love the children like so much. And sometimes they can push your buttons. Children don't necessarily have filters. Yeah, so
Yes,
they will say things that if you're not ready and all the way holding yourself, like you could be like, what did you just say to me? Or like, why did you say that? Da, 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 da. But like they're children, children
yes.
don't have filters. So if I would say like first make sure that you're mentally and emotionally mature enough to even be interacting with them because sometimes they can be moody. Like one day they're the happiest kid on earth and then 5 minutes later they're upset. And so being able to monitor that, and I would also say, like, make sure it's a passion and not just like a business because a lot of times, and everyone included, we do stuff because, like, oh, I'm trying to get this or trying to do that or grow or whatever, which is great. But like when you're working with children, it really, because of how much you have to think about, oh, like, what am I saying to them? Like, am I validating their feelings? And you have to be so alert and on guard about how you're conducting yourself that you have to make sure that it is something that you actually love to do and that you feel called to do because it's not like drop shipping. It's not where you can just like sit and leave it. Like you have to be engaged and present and aware. So if it's something that you enjoy doing, it'll be a lot easier to do so for sure. But I encourage anyone who wants to because the children need us. If anything's going to happen to help them grow and become better people, it's going to come from people like us and whoever is interested. And because there's a quote, I think it's by Florence Scovel Shinn actually, or someone else, but like there's a special place in this world that only you can fill. So if you see an issue or if the children make you feel passionate, then definitely go with it. But if not, maybe, find another way to serve the community.
Yes, people, children are the most honest, honest people on earth
Yes,
for
that is true.
sure. They can say what they want. And
That
not, as Coach Yana said, no filter at all.
no.
And Coach Yana, can you recommend a book that influenced your journey?
Yeah, so like I just quoted Florence Scovel Shinn, her book, The Game of Life and How to Play It, is one that I reference all the time. It's in public domain because I believe she wrote it like in the 20s. So you can listen to it for free on YouTube or whatever platform because it is in public domain. But Florence Scovel Shinn's The Game of Life and How to Play It is a wonderful book. It's an easy read, and it's basically just about seeing life from instead of seeing it as like this hard, even though sometimes it is like a challenging show, it shows you a way to look at it as a game and see each challenge as an opportunity for growth, which is definitely helpful in life.
And thank you for your recommendation, Coach Yana, and also for your advice. How do you balance protecting a child's spirit with preparing them for the harsh realities of the world
Hmm.
that is not always supportive?
That is a really good question. I say it's like a delicate balance. I think it's about presenting to children at their age level. Like a 5-year-old can't handle the same things as a 10-year-old, can't handle the same things as a 15-year-old. So, shaping whatever the situation is in a way that's not scary to the child, but is also not um, making them oblivious of like what happens. A really good example, my mom and I also like have a hair care line, and so sometimes we partner with like different Girl Scout councils. And one of the badges that we work with, part of it is like teaching the girls, and these are children like elementary schoolers, how to be safe in public and being on public transportation by yourself, like taking the bus and those things. So we played games and things, but also really highlight the point that, there are dangerous people out there, like, and being mindful of like, it's not about being scared, it's about being prepared. So when you're prepared, you're aware of what the possible situations are, you're aware of the possibilities of who might be around you, and just, being hyper aware of what's happening, but also don't be scared to go out and do stuff. Just be prepared. Know that you have your tools that you need. Understand that these are things that happen in the world, but understand that if you have the tools to protect yourself, at least, and be aware of what's going on, aware of your surroundings, then there's less of a chance to have a scary situation. So I would just say, like, being honest with them and saying like, hey, look, there are scary people out, but they don't need to know to the full gravity at 10 what scary people do. They can just understand, okay, there's scary people, and if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, do X, Y, and Z. But they don't have to understand, if you can help it, what a scary person might do. Unfortunately, though, there are children who have experienced scary people situations, and that's definitely for someone who's trained in that space. So I don't want to say the wrong thing, but in general, it is important to tell them that, hey, these are the dangers and this is X, Y, and Z, but you don't have to go into the explicit details of what's happening or what could happen.
Yes, indeed, Coach Yana. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course, my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in a third season, Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and my baby podcast 2, Science 101 and Sex 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Coach Yana, looking forward, what's one significant shift you'd like to see in how society supports rather than silence the voices of our next generation?
Yes, yes. So I'll also say yes. Make sure you guys listen to all his podcasts as well. And then a shift that I would like to see would be um, the importance of imagination. And because visionaries are people that imagine things, like all the podcasts that you have, you saw that in your mind and you created it. And now, like with AI and technology and stuff, like children don't have to think about stuff. They can just get on their iPad and play all day. They can
Yes.
do whatever all day long with no sense of imagination, no sense of, oh, let me come up with my own idea. Let me try something new, or, do something outside of, Fortnite and whatever. I'm not, and, I do have video game clubs, so I'm not like shading video games. I'm just saying that imagination is a very, very, very key thing for critical thinking skills and goal setting and businesses and podcasts. So I would love to see a shift towards celebrating creativity and children's imaginations. I think that would be wonderful.
Coach Yana, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping our generation to generation to come will be better than us. So Coach Yana, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or any projects that you are doing right now?
Yes. So you can find me on all platforms at the Laptop Life Coach. So, like, literally, like a laptop life coach, because if children are going to be on the internet all day, might as well make it productive and safe. So that's the laptoplifecoach.com, and then at the Laptop Life Coach on Instagram, TikTok, all the things, and YouTube.
Yes, yes, people, let's support Miss Coach Yana because if you support her, more and more and more empowering children to come, and for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Coach Yana, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mordecai people, see you soon.
Bye. Thank you.